How to become a millionaire with a simple strategy. Yeah, hey guys, listen, welcome to Talk Crypto. Just a quick background. This is a new show, and if you get any value of it, please do give it a like and consider subscribing. Really, really appreciate it. We are going to give you tons of value. Looking to really look to getting some really interesting guests and share the journey that many of you are going to be on and talk about some great projects and what's happening in the space. Bit background, I come from a financial services background, but more in the sales and the mortgage market rather than anything else. I've now left that industry, but I've got a huge passion for Bitcoin and the crypto economy and the wider sort of ecosystem. I think there's a fundamental, huge shift that's happening, and it's an incredibly exciting place. So really what this whole channel is about is just sharing my knowledge. I've been in the space since 2020, and trying to bring as much value and perspective as I possibly can. And I'm not pretending or going to try and become that sort of expert that knows it all. I'm trying to figure it out as much as you guys are. And I think I've been absorbing content on crypto literally every day since 2020. And this is the first time I'm really starting to verbalize my thoughts and my thinking. So hopefully I can share a lot of that with you guys as I go through this process. It's very easy to absorb the content, but when you start to try and sort of verbalize these sometimes complex macroeconomic sort of conversations and sort of break it down into bite-sized chunks, it can be sort of challenging. So I think part of this is trying to sort of break it down for you guys in a really simple way in bite-sized chunks, just so I can understand it as much as hopefully you can understand it. So we're going to be interviewing people, trying to break it down into bite-sized chunks, and do the odd video like this where it's a bit more of a one-to-one. We'll maybe talk about sort of, commentary and break down these topics. And I've got a few other ideas to make it a little bit fun as well. So keep tuned in and listen. Let's just dive straight into it. I want to share with you something which I think is hugely powerful, often overlooked, but requires one thing, and that is patience. And a lot of you guys I know haven't got it. Indeed, it's very difficult. But I think this is the secret ingredients that we all need to seriously consider. And I tell you why I think it suits me personally really, really well. I lead a really busy life, multiple businesses, young family, and obviously now trying to sort of share the journey, my experience, and share that with you to try and help you along the way. And for me, my simple strategy is, I haven't got time to be a day trader. I'm not really interested in that. I take a long view. And it's really interesting when you start breaking these sort of into bite-sized chunks and actually analyze it, how it can actually be transformative. So let me share with you my screen, because I think this is going to be quite interesting as we dive through the strategy of how to become a millionaire. And it's a bit cheesy, I know, but you guys love a bit of cheese. And this is definitely not clickbait, but I want to share with you a little bit of my story, how I got into crypto. And I've talked about this quite a few times within some of the conversations where, I say, are we going to be looking back in the future and thinking, wow, I wish I'd known what I know now? Because these sort of conversations happen all the time. And you hear everyone's Bitcoin story, saying that they heard about it back in 2010, 2012, 2015, and they never pulled the trigger up until much later. And they all wish they had sooner. Now, what I really want for you guys is not to make that same mistake that we all have. Now, I'll go into my story and explain it, but I think it shows best, literally, rather than listening to me, but actually look at the figures. So let's dive into it. Okay. And this really tells the story in many respects. Let's just start with the top one here. So the reason I've got 2020 is because that was the year that I actually pulled the trigger. And I'm just going to show you here. In 2020, the low was 5,000. I'm just doing round figures. And bear in mind, guys, these figures are like not absolutely precise, but you know, it's roughly going to be there or thereabouts. And and the high was again roughly 35,000 in 2020. So that was the year that I got in, and that year saw a 556% um, ROI, which is, you know, it's just nuts. And I think, you know, but we'll come on to it. 2021, this was the bull market. So we had a low in that year of 29,500 and a high of 68,000. That's giving us 130% return. So then, obviously, as many of you guys who are in the space, or maybe you haven't, you know, you're new and you haven't sort of had that experience yet. 2022 was a horrendous year, you know. But what's really interesting, I know this is very simplistic. We had a low of 15,000 roughly, and a high of 47,500. So obviously, if you could, you know, that is slightly the wrong way of thinking of it, because the market was coming down. So the high was before the low. But, you know, again, with all of these things, you're never going to be able to buy the high. Sorry, well, you might be buying the high, but you're never going to hit buying the low and timing it so you can sell at the high. But again, it's just interesting when you start looking at these figures. Now, if we move on to the 2023, this year, obviously, we haven't finished the year, so we don't know the figures. So we don't know what the new high is, and we can speculate whether the low has come in. But when we look at, you know, if we make some sort of judgment calls on what we think it could be, then again, you know, we can say, oh, okay, so we've possibly had the low already, 16,500, with a potential high, 55,000. Whether that happens or not, we'll have to wait and see. It may be lower, it may be higher. But, you know, we've got to make some sort of, you know, judgments and estimations within our sort of modeling. And if we go to 24, 25, so, you know, we could say, well, low maybe 100,000 and with a high of 250,000 with a 150% return. So again, that may be massively over optimistic. It may be under optimistic. I know a lot of commentary out there is talking about Bitcoin high potentially in sort of 25 of around about 150,000. Again, who knows? It's speculation. I've just got a feeling it could be around about 250. You know, I may be proven right, I might be proven wrong. But that's going to be interesting. So really, this is, you know, you can see here from 2020 to 2021, we've got higher lows. You know, we had the 5,000 in 2020, 2021, 29.5, 2022. Okay, 15,000 was the low. And obviously that was lower than 21. But again, if you'd bought in 2020, you're still up. Again, I know you're not always going to time the right, you know, times to buy and all the rest of it, but you get the point. If you had bought, for example, here, say top of the bull market, 68,000, okay, where many of you may have bought and many of you may still be holding. Obviously, in 2022, we haven't been that 68,000. In 2023, we may not be that high. But again, if you've bought the wrong time, you sometimes have just got to hold and have patience. And if you can hold 1, 2, 3, 4 years, you could be doing very well for yourself. And then when you look potentially at what even at the lows, potentially, you're still going to be significantly up on your investment. So patience is clearly important if you get the timing wrong. But equally, you can see how over time that if you have got patience, you're probably going to do all right. Now, here, below, I've got the, and this is quite interesting because this is sort of a bit about my story about how, when I first started hearing about Bitcoin, and thinking about, wow, if I'd pulled the trigger back then rather than when I did, what would that have looked like? And this is the whole point of the video. Yes, it's, how to become a millionaire with a simple strategy, but actually this video is also about, don't wait. Guys, this is one of the biggest opportunities that's ever going to exist. And the upside is going to be significantly more the sooner you can pull that trigger. So if this is the first time you've heard about Bitcoin, do something about it. Don't just sit on the sidelines, because most people will hear about it probably about 7 times before they actually do something about it. And this was the mistake I've made, and many, many, many more people have made. So what I want to show you is 2012 was the year that I first heard about Bitcoin. The low was about $4. The high in that year was about $15. Again, not massive numbers. And, if I bought it at the right time and sold it at the right time, I would have made a 275% return. I mean, phenomenal. Absolutely. These, if you think about you getting a bank now, 5%. So just put this in perspective and don't get too greedy. It is ridiculous. Anyway, it gets a lot better. But this, really, like I'm trying to stress, I'm not trying to get too much hopium, but I'm trying to get over to you guys the importance of pulling the trigger and having a long-term strategy, because that is the magic ingredients. Right. So now bear in mind, let me just sort of say something about 2012. So 2012, it would have been a massively speculative, investment. And it hadn't been around long, and you don't know if it's going to be around long. And it's easy to say, oh, you could have bought, thousands of thousands of thousands. Sure, you could, but the question is, would you? That is the critical question. Would you be willing to invest in something that is so new and so speculative? And the interesting point here is, for a lot of you, it still is new, because it's probably coming on your radar, for the first time, second time, third time. Maybe this video will be the 7th time you actually hear about it. And hopefully this is the moment that you actually do something about it. But let me move on. So 2012 is the first time I heard about it. Didn't do anything. 2017 was the next year it came back on my radar. And let me just show you what the sort of figures we were looking at. So in 2017, the low was 721. Again, these are approximate figures, with a high of 19,700. So in that year alone, if I'd bought at that low and sold at that high, we were 1,849% return. Again, you're never going to time those lows and times those highs. But, if you could have got close, you'd have done unbelievably well. So that's really interesting. You look at those prices from 2012 to 2017, 5-year difference. So why have I got 2020 up here? Well, this was the year I bought. And again, that's up here as well. So the low was 5,000 with a high of 35,000. And if we speculate again a little bit here, 2023, we're going to have a low, I believe it's already been in, and a high of low of 16,000, high of 55,000. And again, we'll speculate, and the reason I'm speculating is because I'm trying to sort of map out what that future may look like. So again, we've got that figures there, that mirror here. So the point being here is, so that sort of in a way maps out my sort of journey. So this is where I got in here at this point in 2020. I should have obviously got in here, but did I in 2012? No. Did I in 2017? No. So it took me 8 years of hearing about Bitcoin before I actually pulled the trigger. So this is what I believe is the secret: longer timeframes. So If I had bought in 2012 and sold and had a 5-year time frame, so not 6-month time frame, not a week time frame like some of you guys, a 5-year time frame from 2012 to 2017. I mean, these figures are ridiculous. We've got a 492,400% return. So if I had invested just $1,000, let's take that one out. I'll just show you one at a time. If I just invested $1,000, I would have made almost 5 million. If I invested $5,000, I would have made almost 25 million. Absolutely insane. But those obviously willing to take those risks are the ones that succeed. And nothing in life comes without risk, guys. That's the reality. But you got to manage your risk. Don't put your house on it. Now, this then gets insane. So again, this is a longer time frame, 9 years. This next one, 9-year time frame. So if I'd bought in 2012 when I first heard about it, and waited 9 years, let's have a look what the figures would look like. So I bought it at $4 and sold it at 68,000. We're talking. I mean, these figures are just absolutely insane. 1,699,900%. So what does that look like? I mean, guys, this is just insane. But this is the point. Having a longer time frame compounds the returns. So those short-term blips, those ups and downs, zoom out, and try and not hear the noise. If I invested $1,000, you can see the figures here: 17 million. If I invested $5,000, 85 million. So these figures are just absolutely incredible. But the point, again, I keep stressing it, and I want to get through, and hopefully one of you gets it. Have a long time frame. This is the single most simple strategy you can ever have. But most of you are going to try and be too clever and try and overcomplicate it. And that's something I did. That was a mistake I made in 2020, 2021. So my strategy is going to be changing for the next, moving forward effectively. Now, so that was, I guess, looking at 2012 to 2017 or 2012 to 2021, that would have been the optimal, where first time you hear about Bitcoin, you do something about it. For most of you, that's never, ever going to happen. So if I had bought the second time round in 2017 and sold in 2021, so I ignored it in 2012, let's assume, and I said, yeah, 2017, let's do this. So what we're looking at, so I'd be buying in that year maybe a low of 721 and selling at a high at 68,000. So you're looking at a 9,330% return. £1,000 invested would be 94,300. So again, this isn't £1 million or $1 million, but if you just consider, you just put $1,000 into something and suddenly you've got almost 100 grand. I mean, in 5 years, in 5 years, you're never going to find this anywhere else. So let's not get greedy, but let's just keep things in perspective. So this, all right. So if we buy now and we wait, again, longer time frames, guys, longer time frames. I'm not talking about buying now, but selling next year, buying now, selling in 2 years. I'm talking the longer time frames. All right. So if we have a 6-year time frame, and basically the reason I picked this time frame, 2029, we got a halving year in 2024. It's probably going to be peak around 2025. We're going to go into a bear market. 26, 27, 28 is the next halving year. 29 is probably going to be the next peak on that cycle. So that's the reason I'm picking this time frame. So if you can just think, if you can wait, if you've got the patience, if you've got the tenacity, if you've got the mental courage to be strong, we could be looking at these types of figures. So we've had a low in 16,500. Obviously, that's already come in. I don't think we're going to be, getting anywhere near that figure again. So we've missed that. That's fine. But don't worry about it. You're never going to hit the exact tops or the exact bottoms. Now, 2029, I've picked a figure of $1 million. That could be massively overestimating. It could be massively underestimating. And I'll come on to something in a little bit about why that might be underestimating. The reality is we don't know. You can play with these figures yourself and experiment and, have that thought exercise. Either way, you've got a positive, very good return. I have no doubt about it. So what would the figures look like if you had invested? And again, this is speculation. It's not financial advice. This is pure mapping out thoughts, ideas, and strategies. So if you invest $1,000 today and you can wait 6 years, you're going to be looking at around about $60,000. So again, just put that in perspective. Yes, it's not £1 million, $1 million, but you've put your $1,000 in now. How much of a difference having $60,000 would make to your life? If you can imagine yourself looking back to your past self, would you be saying thanks to your past self for having that wisdom to invest that amount, to say, right now, I've got a good chunk of cash I can do something with? That may be a deposit for a house. It may be education. It may be starting a business. It may be, hey guys, you had a few sort of broadband issues, joys of living in the sticks. Right, let me just go back to this. Okay, so yeah, we can see if you buy now, have a 6-year time frame, you're going to be doing all right. If you can be the ultimate long term, I mean, really any investment should be 5 to 10 years plus. And if if you're in your 20s, I mean, geez, you should be having a 20, 30 year, 40 year time horizon. But let's look at the figures. If you were to buy now, and we've got to make some predictions and assumptions and things like that, and you wait until the next cycle. So again, 2028. So we've got 2024 coming up. That's the next halving. 2028, one after that. 2032, 2033 is going to be the next sort of high point we're predicting. So buying now, again, we've missed that real low, but again, in the grand schemes of things, even now is super cheap. If it hits high 5 million by 2033 in 10 years time, we're looking at 302,000. I can't even read it. Was that 30,000? 30,245%. I think I need to get glasses. We're getting older. It all happens. It happens to us all. And what does that look like? I mean, this is it. £1,000, 300 grand, 5 grand, 1.5 million. Guys, long-term planning, long-term horizons, long-term strategy. It really is simple as that. And just to quickly share with you a couple of things. Now, we're making assumptions. In 2029, $1 million is a high. In 2033, 5 million. Now, some of you are going to be going, this is just ridiculous. These figures are absolutely insane. You know what? Maybe they are. We don't know. But maybe we're undercooking it. If we look at this guy, Pomp, I hope you can see the screen. Let me just double check to see if you can. Right. So he's a big guy in the space, worth checking out on YouTube, on Twitter. He put out a post a little while ago now, in 2021. Fidelity gave a presentation to clients recently that showed a Bitcoin model that reached 100 million Bitcoin price by 2035. Wall Street is catching on. This is a historic moment we are living in. he's done a video, and I'll share this with you as well. So don't take my word for it. Do your own research. But this 5 million that I'm sort of saying in 2033, when did I say 2033? You know, I may be way under cooking it. So let's just watch a little bit of this.
This is not the first time he's had a run-in with Bitcoin. He appears to be very bullish on Bitcoin. He continues to talk about it, tweet about it, etc. But he has called it an aspiring asset class that looks to be coming of age, and he compares it to gold in the 1970s with higher upside. And so recently they had this webinar, as you can see here, the director of global macro doing a Fidelity webinar calling Understanding Bitcoin, What Can History Teach Us? So pretty interesting that Fidelity is doing this webinar. But more interesting is one of the things that they actually talked about.
And this is what I was saying, guys. Now, history does teach us lessons. Let's not have these conversations and we go, wow, if only I'd known what I know now in 10 years' time, looking back at 2023. This is the mistakes that we've all made, like I said right at the beginning.
Kind of projections. And then that squiggly line is the actual price of Bitcoin, a logarithmic measurement. And this looks like a chart that you've probably seen before, but if you actually go all the way up to the 2035 and look to the left of the chart, this has Bitcoin at $100 million per Bitcoin. And so it's unclear whether...
Let's just pause it there. And again, you can go and find the video yourself and take a look. But yeah, going back to this, you can do these models yourself. You can play with the figures. You can experiment. You know, maybe you haven't got $1,000, maybe you've got hundreds, but whatever you've got, it will significantly be more if you do take the plunge and pull that trigger. And I'd implore you to if this is the first time, please, most of you are not going to do this, but please just put a little bit of something into it. It will be a life changer for you. And actually, even if you've got a bit of money, still just put a little bit in, because you need to feel comfortable with this. You need to start, just getting used to it and get comfortable with it. So don't put your house on it, but just be aware that this is an incredible opportunity and one that I wouldn't want you guys to miss. I'm going to wrap up there, guys. Listen, if you've watched it to the end, hugely appreciate it. This is a new channel, new show. Really want to bring you tons and tons of value. Break down these concepts into really simple strategies and breaking down sort of commentary and things like that. So give us a like, subscribe, really appreciate it. And yeah, keep tuned in for the next one and can't wait to catch up with you guys soon.